How'd you fall in love with the game of baseball?
And so I come from a bloodline of baseball players. My dad is from the Dominican Republic, San Pedro de Macorís, where I'm going to say it how it's properly said, San Pedro de Macorís. It's historically in the Dominican Republic, this is like the cradle of baseball players predominantly in the Dominican Republic. You have names like, Robinson Cano, and, that's Fernando Tatis. That will be commonly, one of the common names that are highlighted today and that our youth would know. But, just coming from a bloodline of baseball players and just being introduced to the game early on in life, I just took a great passion to it, and it's what I've known for all my life.
Beautiful. So tell me about your playing days. Obviously, did you grow up in the DR? Did you grow up playing there? Did you grow up here stateside?
Well, I grew up in Washington Heights. Played at George Washington High School, where Mr. Manny Ramirez, went to school.
Had a couple good
number of guys.
I was gonna say
Number of guys. Yeah,
players too.
you have a guy named Angel Salome, Alex Arias, and even Rod Carew went there. He didn't play, but he went to George Washington High School. And just being around, those guys, in the days I was there were a lot of big time names, and I learned a lot from those guys, the older guys coming in, as a freshman and sophomore. Those guys made sure that we were in line, and not only them, but our coach, Steve Mandel, and Coach Valdez, they made sure that we were being taught the game the right way. From that, I transitioned into going to Ranger College, made it there, didn't really quite make it out of the fall, sustained an injury. And then I had a kid, who's now in college, played some Division I ball, just transferred out. COVID just took this game into a different world, as far as recruiting and playing time, and in order to develop, you have to play, right? So that's one thing I tell our players is, you want to go to a school where not only do you want to obtain a good degree and a good education, but you want to be able to play, right? You want to be able to play wherever you go. So that's my biggest advice that I give our guys. Don't fall in love with the name of the school. Just, fall in love with everything about the school. If baseball wasn't a part of the school, would you still want to be there? And up until COVID, that wasn't really something that we would even consider. Once COVID hit, it's like, well, no baseball. So is this the right place for me?
Yeah, Eddie, I think you nailed it right on the head on that. I think a lot of times that kids nowadays, get caught up with that 5 minutes of Twitter fame or whatever it might be. And I think that we as an organization at the Diamond Allegiance, and just as a whole, as travel baseball, we need to do a better job at celebrating every kid, right?
Absolutely.
And obviously, we're all lucky enough to be able to coach some really top level kids, but this is about what can you do, doing more for most. One of our organizations that's part of the Diamond Allegiance Travel or Power Baseball, that's their saying, do more for most, right? Yeah, you can help that top level kid, but what else can you do, right?
Absolutely.
There's so many kids out there that are wanting to play at the next level, and if you want to play and put in the time, there's a place for you. And I'll leave you with this. I know this is more about you, but one thing that I learned early in my career was transitioning from high school to college baseball was that you think you work hard in high school, and then you get to college and then you realize what it really takes. And if you don't get to see the fruits of your labor, all those hours that you put in the cages and on the field and practice and in the weight room, if you don't actually get to play the game, it's really, really hard, right? So like
Absolutely.
you said, going somewhere where you can find a place where you can be on the field and play the game that you grew up loving, right? As that 10, 12, 12-year-old kid. So
Absolutely.
I love that, Eddie. I just have a maybe a more personal question. What's it like growing up and learning to play the game in the city, right? Like, I live in Florida, right? You got baseball fields all over the place. You got facilities all over the place, right? Like, is there a difference, and if there is one, like, what would you say the biggest obstacle to living in the city and becoming a really good, well-rounded baseball player is?
Well, just being able to compare the city and my summer days in the Dominican Republic, right? Just the training and everything that took place in the Dominican Republic, waking up early mornings, and just going from the beach, running on the beach to the field, to long tossing, to everything that encumbered that in the Dominican Republic was a way of life, right? Growing up in the city, there's so many obstacles just to get to the field, right? Whether you have to jump on a bus or on a train, or just having to walk through a bad neighborhood just to get to the field. Like, there's so many different challenges, right?
Yeah,
And obstacles that one has to go through just to get to the field, right? And then, not to mention, being in the north, the weather, right? So you learn how to very easily be in your hallway and have your neighbors hate you because you're throwing a ball off the wall in your hallway, or you're hitting corn in the hallway, having your buddy toss so you can work on your hand-eye coordination, in those during those cold days. So those are just some of the challenges that you're faced with in the city, and being an up north guy, right? But those are also excuses, right? In some regard, for guys up here, like, you find a way,
Yeah.
right? Like, Manny found a way. Like, there was no excuses. Angel found a way. Like, there was no excuses for those guys during the cold days. You would see them on the field, like, no matter what, like, doing their own thing, hitting off the tee, picking up their own balls, doing pull-ups. It's just a number of different challenges that they faced that just made them that much stronger, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes what I think is, when we're blessed with certain things, we take them for granted. So, I know some of those guys didn't.
There's no doubt about that. So let's transition a little bit. Tell me about Canes Tri-State. When did it start? How did it start? And where do you see it moving over the next couple of years?
So we were an organization prior to the Canes, and my son had played for the Canes Midwest under Jay Hundley, and Jay reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to do something with the Canes?" And I said, "We'll think about that." And then I said, "What am I doing? Like, this isn't about me. Like, if the Canes can help us reach other regions of the country to get kids recruited, like, let's jump all over it." And that's really what that's how it birthed. I was like, these guys can help us tap into different regions and help these kids get that exposure that they wouldn't normally get. So as it continues to evolve and have Diamond Allegiance, who can bring all these different worlds together, for everything, just to make it that much more streamlined, or easier, or more accessible to people who just, or kids that can't. This, why wouldn't you be a part of it, right? Like, you want to continue to be an ambassador of the game and continue to help the youth. Like, this is definitely a home run, right? As far as going back to Tri-State and how it continued to evolve and grow. So we started as Canes New York, then we continued to grow on. We added New Jersey, and now newly Connecticut, and all three of those states make the Tri-State. And in a matter of 2 years, we've happened to formulate that and expand and continue to grow, and again continue to build relationships with coaches and guys who direct our programs who have Pro Bowl experience, college coaching experience, and a lot of the dynamics from travel ball that you can bring over to the college side of things, and vice versa. I coach at the D2 level, and I bring a lot of what I do with our guys at the college level back to our program, and vice versa, right? The energy that our guys display at Canes, I want to bring that energy every day to the college program, right? Because those kids are they're still kids, and what I want the guys at the college to understand, I just want them to have that fun again. I think they put too much pressure on themselves because they're in front of scouts and they have to perform because they find themselves out of the lineup. Like, the preparation is what's going to get you to have that fun, right? So if you put in that work and you put in the hours of preparation, everything on the field is just going to be fun at that point, right? And if you learn to accept the failure and get over that much quicker, because deep down inside you've put in that work, then it'll be next page, let's go, right? And that's kind of like the attitude that I think we need to have more of.
I love it. So Pat Casey, who's on our board of directors, right, former head coach at Oregon State.
Yes.
I share this story a lot, but I think it's really interesting. Pat, as he got later in his career, started to in the dugout, instead of being, let's say that you were in the third base dugout, and obviously the guys come up, the stairs and go to the on deck circle, and usually you see a manager sitting right there, right? Pat started to go all the way down to the other side of the dugout, and he would watch and manage the game from the other side of the dugout. And he said the reason that he did that is, he said, practice is for coaches and the game is for the players. And if we've done our job as coaches and we've prepared the players, we should just let them play the game, right? If they strike out on a slider in the dirt and the scouting report said, don't swing at the slider out of the zone, they know what they did. They don't need to be berated in the middle of the game, right? They know they messed up, right? But being able to, and he pointed to it, right? Being able to, as a coach, to be able to let his players play and to have fun, right? He said that was a big turning point in his career and to the successes that they had at Oregon State. And for me as a coach, that was really, really interesting for me to hear, right? Just that idea of how as coaches can we do a better job of, we talk a lot about have fun in the game, right? Are we as coaches, as we reflect back, are we giving the players the space to have fun in the game?
Absolutely.
So again, something really interesting.
I was fortunate to have met Pat down in Tennessee. Yep. And just have a conversation with such a great man and a great coach, right? Where one of our coaches, who's really like into like all this hitting statistics and everything, and he just knew like right away, like Stephen Kwan, right? And like Nick Madrigal, who are guys who have very high contact percentage, right? In the major leagues now, right? And to be able to speak with Pat and have that conversation and just pick his brain, right? And to hear that story now, right? Just allowing the player to play, right? And not berating them, like you said.
Yeah, it's and again, we can get into it. I don't want to get too far off.
No, and again, if it weren't for the Diamond Allegiance, I would have never met Pat, right? So that's how it all comes along, right? Like,
yeah,
like
absolutely, Eddie. I appreciate that. But this is about you today. So next question for you. If you could think of like one word to describe your program, right? And what would it be? And then how do you try to bear that out as the leader on a daily basis?
Family. It's the one word. I kind of get choked up talking about it, right? These guys behind me here, they treat themselves like family. They make sure, they're all right outside of the game. They contact each other, right? Some guys are down in Georgia, some guys are up in New York, some guys are out in Jersey, some guys in Connecticut, but they make sure that they maintain that connection, right? and they maintain that well-being of being mentally picked up by one of your peers is much more powerful than having an adult do it, right? And I think they've established that relationship. And from my side, just making sure that we're tight knit and that we know that we have each other's backs, right? On a daily basis, right? And it's a lot like a brotherhood, man. And it's funny, we just had a video shoot this weekend, and on our Instagram, I see some of the boys, brotherhood, family, like those are the key words that just represent us, but also, exemplify like what these guys are about, right? Like, and it's not, again, it's not about us as coaches. I think we do a lot, like you said, today's about me, but it's really about them, right? Yeah. As coaches, I think we let our egos really get in the way of letting these guys do what they are supposed to do with the game they love, right? Like, let them have fun, like we just spoke about, right? But most importantly, that family. Like, there's a kid over to my right here who sustained an accident this past fall on an ATV, and he was in a coma, 13 years old, 14 years old, in a coma, and the amount of support and love that he got from the whole entire organization, from even parents in Connecticut and New Jersey who didn't know him. Like, it was just so much love being poured out. We had a 3 o'clock prayer. He's number 3. So we had a 3 o'clock prayer every day for number 3. And it was just amazing how, baseball aside, right, everybody just came together. And with that being said, it's bigger than baseball, right? It's like baseball could be taken away in an instant, but just using baseball, to bring us together, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, one of my favorite movies from back in the day is Remember the Titans, and one of the lines that always stuck with me was, attitude reflects leadership. And so, I think that while obviously the kids, and you're right, the kids drive it and it's about the kids, but without leadership, and obviously you can, like you said, it comes from here, and you can feel that through the camera on the phone with you, right? And so I think that passion, and you setting the tone at the top, that family and brotherhood matters. You should give yourself some credit for that. So
thank you, man. Appreciate it.
But I also know that doesn't happen without good people around you, right? As you obviously you run a program, but there's only one of you, right? So tell me a little bit about some of the key people that you work with, your coaches, administration, things like that. Who they are and what they do to help your program.
Yeah, man, it's always a team. Yeah, we preach team, we preach family. But this definitely isn't possible without Nadia Cruz, who oversees everything. Like, I don't even want to just say like, oh, she's our she's our field operations, or she does this. No, she oversees everything. She's a jack of all trades. She wears many hats. That it wouldn't be possible without her. JP Vale, JP has really, really helped our program tremendously in all aspects, like picking up every slack in every way. And he is, we appointed him our fields operations director, right? Where he's going to make sure that our quality in our practices are being sustained in what we believe, right? So we have multiple teams, right? So I can't be at every one, but we want to make sure all our coaches have a practice plan. We go out there and we accomplish that on every time there's a practice. So JP is going to make sure that we uphold that standard. And Joe Carreri, who's worked with our pitchers, he's our pitching director. He's been working with our pitchers ever since. Does a phenomenal job with our guys. And I can't go without thanking Isaiah Quiros, who just played 7 years with the Rangers and has been working with our catchers and has been really bringing that energy. Very young, still a young guy, has 7, 8 years of Pro Bowl experience, affiliate experience. And the way he goes about, teaching the game to the guys and just making sure that they're developing is very commendable, to say the least. But that's pretty much the core of guys and lady who put this together. There's so many more names that I can mention, Frank Nigro, Anthony Nigro, Jimmy Costin, those guys as well. Yeah, thank you to those guys for helping us get to where we are right now.
Awesome, brother. So I'm a parent, and I'm kind of looking around the area, and I'm doing my research, and I'm trying to figure out what club I should go play for. What do I get as a player? What do I get as a parent when I become part of Canes Tri-State?
You get truth, right? I'm not gonna sell you on something that's not true. Like, everybody wants to play Division I. Everybody wants to, go to the next level. But there's a price you have to pay for that, right? And not necessarily monetarily. It's your time, your dedication, your sacrifice, right? If you're able to sacrifice, dedicate, you're going to reap the benefits and the reward. Just because you joined the Canes doesn't mean, hey, listen, I'm wearing black and yellow, tomorrow I'm committing to LSU. No, that's not how it works. There's a self-discipline that has to come with it, right? And if you're not committed to that degree, then you also have to know that the reward you're going to reap might not be what you're visualizing, right? You have to be realistic. So you're going to get the reward for the work you put in, not what you wish for, right? So again, coming to us, we're really just going to tell you, hey, this is our plan that we're going to lay out. This is the development side of things. This is the showcase. This is the tournament, right? We're going to give you a roadmap, right, of what we feel is going to be best suited for you, right, as a player to develop, to obtain what it is that you set out to obtain, right? So realistic expectations, right? But we're also going to give you realistic feedback, right? We're really not interested in your money. We're interested in our reputation.
Makes a ton of sense. So I come to you and you tell me you're going to help me develop, and then you're going to get me out to showcase and get in front of schools. What's that development roadmap look like? I heard you say something about practices, right? Everybody's a little bit different in how they go about this, and every travel team's a little different, right? So do you guys hold practices? Like, if I'm a player for you, like, what does my week look like, right? What does my season look like?
Okay. So during high school, right, during the high school season, we practice as a team on the weekends once a week. Before high school starts, we usually 1 to 2 times a week in the winter. Actually, we were 3 times a week during winter workouts, and now during the season, as it gets closer, we're once a week because we're limited, if that, right?
Yep.
During our summer season, we're on the field 2 to 3 times a week, right? As far as developing as a team, right? Team cohesiveness, making sure we understand how to play with each other. Now, as an individual, right? Your individual process developing as a player, based on your position, we will lay out what it is we feel that you need to work on based on our assessments, right? So we'll make initial assessments. Hey, obviously, this is what you can work on during the season, right? Which is not too much of adjustments mechanically, because we're gonna start doubting ourselves if we're not having success, right? Yep. So when you're trying to make mechanical adjustments, we try to make that happen during the off season, right? So you can have that embedded into you and programmed into you, so it happens second nature when you're on the field, right? Versus trying to make that happen during the season, where, again, going back to that, doubting yourself, a lot of it is mental. We all know that. But again, developing that sense of each individual player and what they have to do individually, what we can do, right, as far as our winter workouts and what we can do as a service to you as that infielder, outfielder, pitcher, catcher, as an individual, but what you have to do on your own as well, right? Because it's not, I'm going to pick up the bat when I go to practice, and then when I go home tomorrow, I don't go to practice, and then the bat's just sitting there. No, you have to put in your own work as well, right? Kind of go home and do homework.
Absolutely. So I love to hear it. So there is a component, a large component to what you guys do then on the development side. And I think in the travel ball world as a whole, I think that that's something that we need more of, right? Is to make sure that everybody wants to showcase, and they should showcase, right? But you can't showcase something that's not good enough to showcase, right? So
Correct.
getting yourself to that point is really important. So you mentioned earlier that you've got a son that kind of went through this, right?
Right.
Played for an organization. So if you could go back, how long have you been coaching in travel ball, would you say?
Travel ball, I want to say 6 years travel ball.
6 years in travel ball?
Like just completely dove into it.
Okay. So if you could go back, right, so call it 6 or even 10 years, you've been in the game a long time, right? And tell yourself, something that you've learned over the last 6 years. You go back 6 years when you first started. What would you tell yourself? Is there anything that kind of sticks out that you've learned over that time?
Yeah, it's kind of like what we started using. It's trusting the process, man. Right? Like you can't rush the process. Like I find a lot of times, based on the climate that we're in now, everybody's trying to rush to get it, get that accolade or get that commitment post. Rushing the process could be detrimental to the process, right? We have to make sure that no matter what, we're getting 1% better every day, maybe 10% better every day. But whatever it is developing ourselves, 1, as a human being, right? 2, as a student, and then 3, as a baseball player, right? Because you have to be a good human being before you can be a student, right? You have to be disciplined. You have to be respectful to your parents, respectful to your coaches, respectful to every person. And then we can go on to being a student and then go on from there, right? But prioritizing like what we're doing, right? Prioritizing what we're doing, just making sure that your priorities are in line and that they're matching that progress. So if I told myself, 10 years ago, about my son and his process, right? It would definitely be, to cancel some of the outside noise, not worry so much about, what the next guy's doing, right? Or what the next organization is doing, because everybody's going to sell you on, hey, we're doing it better than that guy. We're doing it better than this guy. And then you start jumping from organization to organization and you really don't find a home. So you really don't find a place to where, there is a rapport. And like now that person can talk to a college coach about you like he knows you very personal, right? Beyond the baseball player. So I think that's very important as a parent. If we don't see our kid necessarily gain all the playing time because Johnny's playing ahead of him or whatnot, it is travel baseball where you are paying, but there is a lesson, right, in every failure, and a lesson to be learned when you're not the starter at that particular day, or what could, there is a reason why, right? And then when there's not a reason, then you can really exercise your options, right?
Yeah.
But your kid is never going to learn if you're always looking for a place where he has to be the starter, right?
Yeah, I often say I haven't met many coaches who are trying to put a starting lineup on the field that's not going to have them win that day, right?
Absolutely.
So, if you're not in that starting lineup, there's a reason in that coach's head that you're not going to help them win that day, right?
Correct.
So again, and there are times out there when those reasons might not be the right reasons, and you might need to move on. But I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's definitely times when you've got to be introspective and look yourself in the mirror, and say, how can I get better today? Right? How can I get better?
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so, so you've been through it with your son. You're coaching now. I got two questions that kind of go hand in hand here. The first one is, what gets you the most excited about being part of this travel ball world? What's your why, and why do you do it? And then on top of that, if there's one thing that you could change in this travel baseball world, what would it be?
So my why is, again, is these guys back here, just knowing when they accomplish, some of their dreams, the the reward that you feel as a coach, right? The excitement for them, the joy that you feel is second to none, man. Like, um, it's just like, just remember, just getting phone calls. Hey, coach, I just committed to Tulane. Hey, coach, I just committed to Indiana. Hey, coach, like those kind of phone calls, and just seeing them go through the process and the development, and how they go from having a squeaky little voice to having, that manly voice, and then just that everlasting relationship that you make with these guys, right? Like, it's like they just call you in the middle of the night, like just telling you about, hey, I went 0 for 3 yesterday. Like, what do you think is wrong? I'm like, nothing's wrong. Just trust your abilities. It's baseball, right? Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, just go out and play, right? But just having that relationship where they can come to you, right, and speak to you about things that aren't baseball related, right? And just how impactful you could be in someone's life, right? Just by saying good morning, right? Or just by saying, hey, don't worry about it, it's going to be okay, right? You don't know what that person is going through, right? And until you have that conversation and they open up. And I've had that conversation with many of these boys where they continuously just reach out because they feel that they found somebody that they can speak to, right? So I'm glad to be that part of, their life, and continuously be that for someone, right? As far as travel ball, changing travel ball, I love everything about travel ball. Let me just say, I do. Um, but it's tough to speak on it because they're the kind of like your clients. But if I can really say that, if parents can just be parents and enjoy the game and be more of, sit back and let your kid play, right? And let the coaches coach. I think that's one thing that I'd love to see happen a little bit more in the travel ball world. Like, let your kid understand what failure is, right? Let your kid play the game without that pressure. He already has enough pressure, right, to play the game, because either he wants to be recruited, or he's looking to be recruited, or because he just doesn't want to fail his team. Nobody goes out there to want to fail, and now he has to worry about, what the parent's going to say, right? So if I would just have to say, just let the boys play, right? Aside from that, I don't think that there's a lot going on in the travel ball world, you know, except for, obviously, everybody wants to play at perfect games, and everybody wants to be ranked on the perfect games, and everybody wants to be that in the perfect games. I would say, if the ranking defines who you are as a player, then you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yep, 100%. So I got two things I'd love to drop in on that. We had on one of our most recent Diamond Allegiance webinars, we had a very successful mental skills coach on, and he was talking about the process of becoming an elite athlete, right? He trains NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, the whole bit, right? Um, what's the number one reason for a kid quitting a sport?
Parents?
Parents, right? Parents. So, I'm a parent, you're a parent. you know, it's not easy to watch your kid fail. You want to
Absolutely.
you want to go out there and you want to pick them up and you want to hold them close. And but I think at the same time, as a parent, if you've done your vetting and your research, you know, I know from a 45-minute conversation here, if I drop my kid off with you, I'd feel pretty comfortable, right? And
Thank you.
so I think that, you know, parents, what I could give the most, you know, in the travel ball world is do your research, right? And find people that you trust. And once you find people that you trust, leave them with those people and let them do their jobs, right? And there's a reason that you know, the cream rises to the top, and the best people have track records for success, and they have track records for success because of a reason, right? And so my biggest recommendation to parents out there is to do your research, and you know, that's part of what the Diamond Allegiance is doing, right? Is bringing together the people that do things the right way and being able to put that stamp of approval and saying, hey, you know, these people are part of the Diamond Allegiance because they do things the right way. And if you are part of this, then parents should have the comfortability that these are the right type of people, right?
Absolutely.
Um, you know, the second part of that, for me, you know, with the rankings is I think the rankings, they get a bad rap sometimes too. I think rankings give you an idea of where you fit in. I know when I was going through it and I was running a large organization, I would always explain it to parents as this: if you're ranked, whatever ranking it is, right? Baseball America, Perfect Game, PBR, like whatever it is, right? If you're ranked number 1 through 50, you're probably going to have a decision to make, right? You're probably going to have to be like, hey, you know, is this am I going to make a decision? Am I going to go play pro ball? If you're ranked 50 to 200, you got a chance to be a really good impact player at a high Division 1 level. If you're 200 through whatever number, you can be a big leaguer, you can be the worst player on your college team, right? Like there's three segments to me. And I've had the you know the luck, you know, like I said, I was in Florida. You know, I've had the luck to have, you know, first rounders that never made it and kids that were ranked, you know, not ranked play in the big leagues, right? And so don't let rankings define you. I think they're a good roadmap, for where you are in a snapshot in time, right? But they don't give us this full picture and this full view. And it's hard to do that. You know, as a ranking service, you're trying to take a snapshot and again to create that roadmap. And I think that that's what it comes down to. You know, I always challenge parents to go, you know, pick 5 to 10 of their favorite big leaguers because most of them nowadays have been through this process, right? The young talent in the game has gone through the showcase world. Go look up what they were ranked, right? It'll surprise you. It really will. You know, obviously you're going to have those, you know, 1-1 and, you know, top 10 players, but of course, those are the can't miss guys. But how many of the guys that are playing at the highest level were ranked, you know, number 682? More than you know, right? So
That is very true.
last question for you today, and just a little bit of a shameless plug. And I know that we've just getting started here, with your organization and the Diamond Allegiance, but what was it about the Diamond Allegiance that made you say, I want to be a part of that? And you know, where do you see it going? Obviously, we're at our infancy, about 18 months in. Like, what do you see for the Diamond Allegiance in the future?
Well, you know, to start off, when I was first introduced to the Diamond Allegiance, um, I said, wow, hold on. Parents are gonna be able to save, you know, like, whoa, like that was my first impression of it. So I'm like, this is a great tool for parents to save money. But then when I started finding out that it was much more than that, I was like, hold up, like this is a no-brainer, right? So you know, just being able to, me being from an inner city kid, right? And just seeing that the Diamond Allegiance is going to offer scholarships, you know, for financially need, you know, based on a financial need, like that to me says that you guys are in it for just more than, you know, savings, you know, and parents, right? We're really looking forward to helping, you know, maintain the youth that can't afford to play travel baseball, playing baseball, right? So aside from that, the recruiting platform, right? Where you know, players can upload videos, stats, you know, hobbies, you know, you name it, they can upload it there for college recruiters to look at, right? And you know, kind of filter what they're looking for, and kind of it makes their life easier, and it also gets our kids exposure. Not to mention the other aspect of it, the personal relationship that I've established with yourself, with Eric, and with Sandy, you know, like down in Tennessee, you know, just being able to come out and speak with us and just recognize New York, because he's been such a big part of New York, right? Where, you know, Sandy's just has an amazing heart, to say the least, you know, just being able to understand that what you guys are trying to accomplish, and then having, you know, Pat Casey, you know, Eric Backage, you know, like these are guys that are, you know, you're talking about coach at Michigan, now at Clemson, you're talking about Oregon State, you know, not to mention the rest of the number of coaches and you know, staff behind this whole thing, this whole Diamond Allegiance, where again, it's an allegiance. It's going to be amazing for everybody, I think. And I think in 5 years from now, you guys are going to be a staple of this whole thing. It's just, I just see it growing exponentially.